third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. A'ja Wilson creams Lexie Hull like she did 5 times in game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. A'ja Wilson doesn't like Lexie Hull. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul.
The Indiana Fever just watched Game 2 slip right through their fingers, and the crazy part, it wasn't because they were outplayed. It was because the referees practically gift-wrapped the win for the Las Vegas Aces. We're talking about 41 fouls called in a single game, with 16 whistles in just 1 quarter. Players were being tossed to the floor like it was a wrestling match. And while A'ja Wilson somehow walked away celebrated for her stat line, Lexie Hull was grinding through a back injury she picked up in Game 1. This wasn't basketball, it was chaos in disguise. So how in the world did the Fever still manage to push back through all of that madness? And more importantly, what does it mean now that the series shifts back to Indiana? If you're backing the Fever, drop a "Let's go, Lexi" in the comments.
I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back up, so that's all you can really say.
Think about it. How did Indiana stroll into Vegas, face the reigning 2-time champs, deal with whistles leaning the wrong direction, and still walk away with a double-digit victory in Game 1? That first win wasn't just a triumph, it was a statement to the entire league. The Fever played with a calm, controlled discipline that you don't usually see from a young squad.
Take that! Hell yeah! Hell yeah! That's one! That's one! That's one! Yeah! They ain't song and dance to me, man. I'm just grateful, man. I love basketball. I love playing on my team, so let's take what we can get.
Right from the tip-off, Kelsey Mitchell shut down any doubts, exploding for a playoff career-high 34 points. Every time Vegas tried to put pressure on, Indiana answered, not with flash, but with poise, refusing to let the pace get hijacked. And let's talk about the supposed ace up Vegas's sleeve, A'ja Wilson. The reigning MVP had a nightmare performance. 6 makes on 22 shots. Just 6.
A'ja Wilson, look at that foul they called for her. Yeah, saved her. That's some bullcrap. I love Aaliyah Boston. Great job today playing defense. Look at that. Another foul. Bailed out by the refs. I get pissed off. This is the worst one. They call this a jump ball. How is that a jump ball? Nobody even had possession. Aaliyah Boston, that's anything is over the back. Not a jump ball.
Indiana's defense turned her night into a grind, contesting every touch at the rim and making sure she had to fight tooth and nail for every bucket. The story of Game 1 was simple. One team executed with surgical precision while the other struggled to find rhythm, even on their home floor. What made it sting even more for Vegas was the context. They had home court advantage, whistles leaning their way, and national coverage hyping them up as the easy pick to sweep the series. But instead, Indiana held their ground and left with a 16-point blowout win.
And A'ja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish. Their
fans immediately noticed something was off with the foul count, even in victory. But the sheer dominance of Indiana buried most of those complaints. Still, that sense of bias lingered in the background. That embarrassment lit a fire under the Aces. Losing by 16 at home wasn't something they could brush off, so they stormed into Game 2 desperate to change the tone, and change it they did, but at what cost? Was that really basketball we watched, or was it simply a brawl dressed up as playoff intensity?
In the WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up, but you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know A'ja Wilson only receives fouls.
From the opening minutes, Vegas made it clear They weren't there to play clean. Bodies were flying, forearms were being thrown, collisions on every possession, and the officials never once brought the game under control. What could have been a showcase of two elite teams turned into a whistle fest. 41 fouls, 16 of them in just the third quarter. Indiana couldn't build momentum for even a second. Every attempt was chopped to pieces by stoppages that suspiciously tilted in one direction.
So why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. You know, and when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. And you know, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
The physicality wasn't just occasional, it was the entire theme. Players were shoved out of the lane. Defense looked more like hand-to-hand combat than footwork. Time after time, someone ended up flat on the hardwood. And it wasn't just about the fouls themselves, it was about how they killed Indiana's rhythm. The Fever thrive on flow, ball movement, and pace. Instead, they were dragged into a brawl they never signed up for.
Yeah, Lexi, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, you know, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. Yeah, a lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
While Vegas piled up free throws, Indiana got forced into slow, choppy half-court sets. The very thing they're least comfortable with. And here's the kicker. Lexie Hull shouldn't have even been out there. After tweaking her back in Game 1, she was listed as a game-time decision. Most players would have sat, healed up, and waited for home court, not Lexi. She taped herself up, stepped onto the floor, and immediately became a target for Vegas's bruising tactics. You saw it in real time, bump after bump, hit after hit, crashing to the floor again and again, and still, she fought back. Hull drained 5 three-pointers, tying a Fever playoff record. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't easy, but it was defiance in its purest form. After the game, she admitted, "I'm sore, but I'm just pushing through." That's not a soundbite. That's a fighter refusing to fold. Meanwhile, the headlines weren't about her courage or about Indiana trying to survive a whistle-rigged battle. Instead, they celebrated Aja Wilson's numbers: 25 points, 9 boards, 5 steals, 2 blocks. Those stats got plastered everywhere, but what nobody mentioned was how she got them. Bullying her way through the paint, knocking players around, and getting calls that Indiana never saw on their side. Fans online noticed, but the national media spun it as dominance. Let's be clear, dominant doesn't mean fair. Not when half your opponent's starters are limping out of the game. Aaliyah Boston lived that nightmare possession after possession. She still put up 10 points and 13 rebounds, but every single one came with a hit, a shove, or a body check. Paint touches that should have earned free throws turned into swallowed whistles. People forget, Boston is only in her 3rd season, yet she carried herself like a seasoned vet, refusing to give an inch. On paper, her box score looked steady. In reality, it was survival mode. And while the spotlight fell on the stars, Odyssey Sims was the spark Indiana desperately needed.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you look at it. It looks, honestly, by some of the fouls and the way it was going, it looks like we were almost too physical, but yet at the same time, I feel like we have to be able to get that on the other end. I think, you know, sometimes when you just look at the game as a whole, when you look at the way that it works, sometimes you manipulate it to different ways and you have smaller matchups. So, I mean, I just don't think it's really possible all the time for some of those smaller matchups to really do such a clean job of that. But hey, I'm here to hoop, so none of my business.
She dropped 18 points despite battling double teams, constant hacks, and broken possessions that she somehow turned into buckets. Every time she found rhythm, another whistle stopped the game. You could see her frustration, but she never quit. She matched Vegas bucket for bucket, even as the deck stayed stacked. So no, the story of Game 2 wasn't that Indiana fell short. It's that they weren't allowed to play their game. The grit was there. Hull's threes, Boston's rebounds, Sims's drives. But every surge was stomped out by a foul or a shove. The Aces didn't out-strategize Indiana. They leaned on chaos, fouls, and whistles. And here's where it gets interesting: the way Las Vegas handled Kelsey Mitchell. In Game 1, Mitchell torched them for 34 points, scoring every which way. In Game 2, she was suffocated, held to just 13. And it wasn't because she forgot how to score. Vegas's entire defensive scheme was to choke her out of the game. They face-guarded her without the ball. Every cut left bruises. Every screen was countered with an aggressive hedge. They forced her passes into clogged lanes and pushed her into late-clock desperation shots. It was smart, sure, but it only looked clean on paper. In reality, it was bruising, relentless, and only possible with the refs letting it slide. The irony? Even Becky Hammon, Vegas's coach, complained afterward about how physical the game got. Think about that. The same Aces who benefited from whistle after whistle were griping about it. That tells you all you need to know. This wasn't just about adjustments, it was about officiating that shaped the entire outcome. Still, credit where it's due, Vegas did make some tactical tweaks. They pulled Boston away from the paint, creating mismatches that let Wilson and Jackie Young attack without her help defense waiting inside. They smothered Mitchell. They did just enough to swing momentum their way. But they couldn't stop Lexie Hull, injured, banged up, and still she tied a playoff record with those 5 triples. That's not luck. That's toughness. And proof that Indiana refuses to go quietly. So yes, Vegas walked out with the win. They got the whistle. They made their adjustments. But now the chessboard flips. The next battle isn't in Vegas, it's in Indianapolis. And this time, they won't just face Mitchell, Boston, and Hull. They'll face 17,000 fired-up fans ready to drown out every whistle with raw noise. This is the turning point. After 2 bruising games on the road, Indiana finally gets to step onto their home floor at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And if you've been there this season, you know it's not just a court, it's a storm. The noise doesn't die. Opponents crumble in the second half when the crowd surges. Missed calls won't slide under the radar when 17,000 voices are erupting at every bump. That's the power of home court. For the Fever, that's fuel. Lexie Hull dragging herself through back pain. Aaliyah Boston grabbing boards like her body is armor. Kelsey Mitchell itching to explode after being smothered. Those scars aren't slowing them down anymore, they're sharpening them. We've already seen this team rally from double-digit deficits at home, and with the crowd behind them, don't be surprised if Indiana storms right back into control.